kind of.
Welcome to the first ever vlog on a blog. Sometime earlier today, I came up with the idea that, the way that the world has gone is that we enjoy blogging. You look at X, it's nothing but a camp out for bloggers. And then Facebook is the same thing. That is just this enormous reservoir of blogging. And because of the fact that we are communicating the things of God to a world that doesn't know him very well or doesn't know him at all, we have engaged, haven't we, Kevin, in the blogosphere. Now,
Yes,
you have a at YouTube, and you manage a couple of YouTube channels for us and supervise a number of social media outreach. There's a beautiful setup there where you have hosts of news programs, and we're going to do a series of YadaNEWS programs. Before we did that, we thought we'd have fun doing something no one else has ever done. And that is, we're going to have the first ever vlog on a blog. So what we're going to do is we're just literally going to go down the Facebook page as it exists, and each day we'll update it, and we'll talk about those things that we found interesting to blog about. So we're going to vlog on the blog. Okay. So I see that the first image that you have up is this really tremendously intense solar flare that is targeting Earth right now. And what's so interesting about this is that, they have said that as far south as Minnesota, you're going to have the aurora borealis and the northern lights, but you're down there in Missouri, right?
Oh yeah. We saw them last night. They were on fire until probably 2 or 3 a.m. It was insane. And I mean, I don't mean a little bit of red like in the north, like the where you can see the North Star. I mean directly above the entire sky, all the way up, all 90 degrees above my head was red with the green. It was insane.
Wow. It has to be just beautiful. I've only seen the Northern Lights once when I was in Alaska a long, long time ago. And it was spectacular. It's candy for the sky. It's like you got the most beautiful jewelry and you placed it up there in the sky, or that you were going to take the rainbow, which we all love, but paint the rainbow against the stars.
Right.
What a beautiful sight. But this, the good news is that this solar flare is resulting in literally the sky orchestrating its beauty. Heaven showing off, if you will. And tonight you have a double show from the heavens, and that it's also one of the larger meteor showers. So they're going to be meteors that are going to be, and these are long streak bright meteors that are going to be part of the show tonight. And so it's really going to be an extraordinary thing. The only thing you want to be careful of is that these solar flares have a tendency to knock out electronics because of the EMP kind of waves that they generate.
Oh, sure. And they even talk about, Space Weather News talks about people flying at high altitude, like on commercial flights and stuff like that. The amount of radiation is higher, during this time and things. I mean, I know they're pretty, but realize that this is the sun cooking the Earth's magnetosphere. So it's a powerful thing.
I don't think right now, and I'm a pilot. In fact, I'm actually type rated in jets, ATP pilot, and have flown lots in my own airplanes at 30,000 feet and there above. And I can tell you that as important as the electronics are on an airplane, and as troublesome as it is when they don't function properly, I'm not certain that my biggest concern in a jet at this point would be my genes surviving the The radiation. I think I'd also be a little concerned about those instruments that,
Well, let's just,
you know,
when we get on the ground, we can worry about the DNA damage, right?
yes, yeah. That's one has a very short duration for catastrophe, and the other one, you know, plays out over a longer period of time. I really don't think that my gene mutation now is going to be the thing that takes me out.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. There are definitely bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
This was the most amazing thing. I think well, yeah, you can't say the most amazing thing with Trump, because everything with Trump is off the charts weird. Now, what he's doing here is Trump has his own line of cologne. Trump will hawk everything. You know, that's all he is. He's using the presidency as a way to publicize and promote his own brand. And this is a Trump perfume. And so Trump is not only spraying his perfume and trying to tell people how it's the greatest scent in the world, he's spraying it on ISIS terrorists.
Yeah.
Al-Jilani here that he's spraying, and one of Al-Jilani's henchmen. So he's having fun slapping this fellow on the shoulder. See, like that? This is a guy that trafficked in little girls. This is a guy who sponsored pedophilia for sale. This is a guy who massacred countless individuals, particularly Yazidi men and women and Christians. He crucified people. This is amongst the most ruthless terrorists on the planet. Trump has him on Veterans Day in the White House after, 10,000 Americans sacrificed their lives to rid the world of Islamic State terrorists. And here he's got him in the White House on Veterans Day, and he's dousing them with his own brand of perfume.
Yeah, take it home to your wives, he said. Yeah, we're all just great buds here. I saw an interview.
Yeah, he even asked how many wives do you have?
Right.
Yeah, truly, I mean, truly is astonishing that that we're witnessing Trump do this. Now, the reason we will spend a lot of time on this vlog on the blog dishing Trump is not because we're liberal. I don't know about you politically. When I was political, going back 20 years ago, I was too conservative to be a Republican. You know, I'm a big fan of free enterprise, personal accountability, personal responsibility, government staying out of our lives, rewarding success and punishing failure, as opposed to the government that we have now that punishes success and rewards failure. So I'm way too conservative to have been a Republican. Our whole approach to this is that we're students of YAHOWAH and of the prophets. And if you're a student of YAHOWAH, you know that he asks us not to be political. So we just stopped being political. But by telling us to not be political, he isn't just saying avoid conversation with it. He wants us to point out the reasons why we should distrust politicians, because until a person disassociates from both religion and politics, they're not put in a position where they can be part of the covenant. And we serve YAHOWAH's covenant family. So it's important for us to expose the things that are wrong about politics. That does not make us political.
Yeah,
it makes us anti-political.
You got to be informed, so at least you know what you're against, and have, you know, you talk about your two. I voted one time in my life, and in that election, it was the hanging chads, and I never voted again after that. After I saw that thing go down in Broward County, I was a kid. I was like, "Oh, this is ridiculous," you know.
Well, once upon a time, I was quite political. I've met during my day presidents, prime ministers, secretaries of state, senators, had them in my home. I was in their home, flew them on my airplanes. I mean, I was up to here in politics, and part of it is because, you know, I was the founding CEO of a business that was valued in the billions of dollars, and that is like the moth to the flame when you're dealing with politicians. So I was once exceedingly political, and now I'm anti-political. But I also took the time to learn the truth about these guys. Like, you know, I got to know George W. Bush, and while I was getting to know him, one of the things that he told me is that he wanted to be a wartime president, and that when he was president, one of the first things he would do is get America involved in a war, because he knew that would galvanize support around him.
Sure.
And what did he do? He became president, declared war on Afghanistan and then Iraq, claimed that Afghanistan was the reason behind 9/11 when it had nothing to do with 9/11. There wasn't a single Afghani involved in the operation. And then claiming that Iraq was harboring Al-Qaeda when Saddam Hussein hated fundamentalist Muslims and was so
and the
opposed to them.
WMD.
There wasn't, a single Al-Qaeda member in Iraq. And then he blamed them for having weapons of mass destruction, which, by the way, as an independent country would have been fine. That was their right, but they didn't even have them. He just lied about everything. And I knew he was going to do it because we had talked about it. It's incredibly disappointing. But the other reason is that having studied Yahweh's prophets, we were the first to properly disclose and officially disclose that man right there is the Antichrist. He is the one that is depicted in Isaiah, and he is the one that's depicted in Daniel. He's also the one that's depicted in Ezekiel. There's no question whatsoever about it. You're looking at the Torahless one that's the great betrayer, and he is going to bring the world to its knees.
Yeah. And Israel's going to welcome him in. I mean, they call him the Cyrus the Great. They're ready for him, you know.
Israel is the only place where Trump has a majority approval.
Yeah, right. We were talking about China earlier in the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah. This is interesting, this photograph here. Do you know what this is a photograph of?
A building or buildings, I guess.
Well, it's a complex of buildings larger than the entire city of San Francisco.
Wow.
It is it's the new factory for BYD. BYD means build your dreams. BYD is a EV company. That's all they do. They make electric vehicles. They are I think now the largest electric vehicle manufacturer in the world. It is a Chinese company. Their styling is very, very good. Where Elon's Tesla styling is very, very tired. He doesn't have a single vehicle that I would say, well, that's really attractive visually. So BYD has much better styling. They have much better pricing. And in many cases, they have better technology. And these are fully robotic factories. These are really state-of-the-art factories. And it's putting BYD in a position that will devour Tesla in terms of EVs. And it was the reason I came to the conclusion that looking at Tesla's sales of EVs, they were rapidly declining, particularly in Europe. But they were rapidly declining until this last quarter. And this last quarter had a slight increase over the same quarter a year ago. But it had nothing to do with Tesla's viability. It had to do with the fact that this is the last time that the U.S. $7,500 incentive for EVs would be applicable. And so it was the last time you could buy an EV with that incentive. Now without it, Tesla is in serious trouble. And Tesla's in serious trouble as an automobile company for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is that Elon Musk not only abandoned his company, he spent a year away from his company, but he destroyed Tesla's image and his image by becoming Donald Trump BFF. And Donald Trump is a egotistical maniac. He is, demon possessed. He's a confabulator. He is such a destructive influence in the world. And Elon Musk is responsible for getting him elected. And then when Musk was with him, Musk acted so inappropriately that he destroyed his reputation. And in the process, he destroyed Tesla's reputation to the point that if you're driving around in a Tesla, particularly that ugly pickup truck, your car is going to be keyed. And so he made it unpopular to own these cars, and these cars, EVs, only sell because of the stigma and popularity that's associated with an EV. An EV is really a terrible choice in the sense that they aren't environmentally friendly. They're environmentally more caustic because of the batteries that are required to run them, and you still have to generate the electricity that's fed into them. And so they are not carbon neutral, and they because you have to generate the electricity, and they are exceedingly destructive to the environment, and they're really a poor value compared to gas internal combustion cars. So they're purchased on kind of an emotional trigger that you think you're doing something good for the environment. So you ruin the company's reputation. You don't have anything left. I think it was the reason why I was commenting on the shareholder meeting that he just had. It was all dark and in purple tones, and the only thing he wanted to talk about was Optima. You know, it's we're going to make robots because it's for darn sure that the future of Tesla as an automobile company is fading. It's no longer a growth stock, and that company is so overvalued as a result. I think it's pretty dire. And when you see something this size that's larger than the city of San Francisco, and it's all new, state of the art EV manufacturer by BYD, and they already have distribution everywhere. The only reason BYD is not a household name for Americans is that there was 100% duties put on those cars to protect Tesla, and that will come off. So,
and not to mention something this size, the economy of scale. China already does a good job of scaling up quickly and being able, because of the volume that they do, making inexpensive products, a value there. To do this with automobiles, the big three are going to be checking their eyes, going, wait a minute, GM, Mopar, and Ford, everybody's going to, whoa, hold on. If China can crank out automobiles, even if they are electric, still the price of those things will be possibly affordable for regular people that live in a city that would only travel 20 miles to work and 20 miles back in a grocery store, not people living in the burbs trying to commute downtown 80 miles or 60 miles. So
the EV is not useful if you're going to drive any distance. If you're just commuting back and forth to the grocery store or to work, and that's close by, an EV is fine. But we have gone way past the time when the myth that Chinese products were junk. They aren't. And in technology, China's the driver, not America anymore. Certainly not Europe. So this is an interesting photograph for that purpose, and it's something that Americans should be aware of. This picture is something. Yeah, there's something that I commented on too. It's the first really aerial view of the destruction of the eastern wing of the White House. Back in the day that I was the CEO of a public company and was a billionaire, I had several people that worked for me that also became officers in the Bush White House. So in particular, and then also I had my chief of staff was a 3-star general, a really high quality individual. And so between the White House and his job was liaison in and out of the White House and in the Pentagon. And so I had spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time inside of the White House, eating meals there in the private dining room. Spent a lot of time in the Oval Office before it became a whorehouse with all the gold, and spent a lot of time also in the Eastern Wing. The Eastern Wing is where you used to enter the White House, and it's also where the First Lady's offices were as well. The reason that this means something to me, beyond the fact that Trump thinks that he owns the building, which means he's never going to move out, is that and he's so unbelievably destructive. To do something of this magnitude to that building should have been a referendum of the people. The people should have been able to see it and say, we want this, we don't want this. Second is the issue with scale. What he is building there is going to dwarf the White House. It is absolutely monstrous and massive, much taller, much wider, much longer than the White House. Rather than being a little wing, which is, you can see that is the West Wing that's by your head there, rather than being the West Wing, this ballroom is going to be ostentatious. And what it reminds me of is what we came to understand in the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel is not a prophetic book in the sense of Ezekiel was a prophet. He was not. Ezekiel is actually a satanically inspired tome. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't have value. It does, because Satan, he confesses to many things, including his view of what took place in Eden when he was beguiling Towrah, and then he was demoted to a snake, a serpent. So there are lots of interesting things in it. What he's going to do to corrupt the 7 Moed Miqraey of YAHOWAH. But the most interesting of all, with this picture in mind, is that the last third of Ezekiel is focused on this individual called Bronze Boy or Copper Man. And so we have a Copper Man in the White House right now. And the function of Bronze Boy or Copper Man, the copper confabulator, is to do all of the measuring and the presentation and the layout of a temple that is so gargantuan that it paves over all of the Temple Mount and all of Jerusalem, and actually encroaches on most of Judea. This is the scale of this thing. It's just monstrous for naming rights for Satan himself. And it's all being laid out and designed by the Copper Khan, who is working in Ezekiel with it. He's bronze man, the measure man. And so what this is a dress rehearsal for what's going to happen in Jerusalem beginning in 2030, when they try to pave over the Temple Mount and erect their monstrosity with naming rights to Donald Trump and Satan. So what you're seeing here is actually a precursor to a prophecy that will be played out here in the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I know that there's been remodels before, that, you know, the bowling alley, the tennis courts, the swimming pool, those sorts of things that each president is able to do or change. But I'm just, like you say, the scale of this thing, I'm surprised there's not some sort of, you can't change the front end of a building in downtown St. Louis without going to the Historical Society and asking permission. You know what I mean?
But he didn't go to any historical society here. He just did it because he's acts like Der Fuhrer.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that there aren't some sort of historical protections on that building like that. That, I mean, and if there are, he's the heck with it. You know, I don't care.
This building has to be a national landmark. I mean, it has to be a national landmark, what he did. But everybody is afraid of him. So they're afraid of him. So if you were a part of the Historic Society and it's a national landmark, you challenge him, he will have you fired. And then he will disgrace you. And most people aren't willing to do that. It's like he went in, you know, before the 800 admirals and generals. And at the time I posted, I said that the lifestyle of the admirals and generals is to the point where they're so grossly overpaid. And they have, you know, their own jets to fly around in. They have chauffeur-driven limousines. They have free, extravagant housing. They have their own butler and chef. That it's such an extravagant lifestyle that of these 800, I said I'd be surprised if 8 of them resign. When Trump came in and did his, you either support me and go to war in American cities. And violate the Constitution, you are loyal to me or you're fired. I said, I think there'll be 8 of them. I think that's how low we have gone. And from what I have read, there have been 4 of the 800. 4. Wow. But yeah, that's what we're dealing with now. It's Donald Trump is the Hannibal Lecter of politics. He literally is a cannibal. And he not only destroys his enemies, he destroys his friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember him going to the Fed and dressing down the Fed chairman in the Fed over the construction
Yes.
project that was there and everything. And it's
Yes.
wow.
And of course, he was wrong. He pulled out that sheet and he said, "Yeah, this is the total." He says, "No, that includes a building that was redone several years ago." And Trump said,
4
"No,
years
it
ago,
doesn't."
right?
Oh, yes, it did.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a really a prophetic boondoggle right here. You're looking at what's going to happen in Jerusalem with this.
Oh, back to the Epstein email.
Oh yeah, so this is an interesting thing that the New York Times has and the Wall Street Journal have figured out how to pressure Trump with his own medicine. This is the Chinese water drop torture, where every day or every week there's a new drop. Of course, when Trump threatened to sue them because he said that there was no birthday book for Epstein and that he never signed and drew a birthday card for Epstein. And then they published the one that he drew and it was disgusting. And it actually admitted that he was aware of those secrets. And since that time, that would have been enough to have caused anybody that's the least bit moral to have rejected Trump. But Trump's response to all of this is to not only deny, which he's denying his own signature here, and it's obvious, but to confuse, to confound people with so much craziness that 500 things have happened that cause you to be out of your mind so that you lose interest in that last one. Well, the Chinese torture test here of water drops is what they're doing here. Now they say that there are emails in that file, and they're going to continue to get more and more, that where Epstein is saying that Donald Trump not only knew after he had been convicted of sex trafficking that this was being done, but went over there and spent considerable time with one of the girls who had been sex trafficked.
Wow. Yeah.
And the best thing that little Miss Prissy, Blondie with the cross, had to say is, all those emails do is venerate Trump and said he did nothing wrong. And oh, by the way, it's a Democratic hoax.
You're right. Yeah. Fake news. Fake news.
Yeah, you're looking at the Antichrist here, and he is a pedophile. Now, that should ring true for people who are aware. Particularly if you read my books, the 5 volumes of Twistianity and the 5 volumes of GodDamnReligion, both Muhammad and Paul admitted they were demon possessed. Donald Trump is demon possessed. He hasn't admitted it, but he is. And we know that from the prophets. Satan has a type. If you look at what Paul said, I'm a sexual pervert. He actually wrote that in Romans. He says, I wouldn't have known I was a sexual pervert had I not known the Torah, but having read the Torah, I know I'm a sexual pervert. And Muhammad was a rapist, a pedophile. He was incestuous. He was as disgusting as you could be sexually. This is Satan's type. So we should not be surprised that the President of the United States is a rapist and that he is a sexual predator.
He did mention that he doesn't think he's going to heaven. You remember that? I don't know if that's...
Twice he said so. Well, I can assure him I've confirmed his reservations. In fact, I get to escort him. He and I are going to have quite the rendezvous on the Temple Mount. Yep. We're going to have a little disagreement. And at the conclusion of that disagreement, that man right there gets sent to an eternity in Sheol, which is hell. So he has a confirmed reservation. He does not need to worry about heaven. He knows it. So the only thing that's troubling at all about Trump is that even though Gabriel, who is Dode, our king, said that he is going to be long in days, which means he's going to be a really old guy. Even though we're told that he is, by the time that 2033 rolls around, that he's going to be in a wheelchair, which is not surprising. Sure. And we're told that he has goatish comb-over hair, which this man clearly does. And Ezekiel, of course, we know that he's copper-colored, which this man clearly is. That he has an ego that's unbridled, is egomaniacal, and that he is a sexual pervert, and that he's meddling in world affairs where he does not belong. Well, all of that, and of course the timing, it's the United States that betrays Israel, that forces the two-state solution on Israel, that makes Israel indefensible, that ushers in the time of trouble. And it says that and it describes Trump as the president of the United States doing that in both Daniel and also in Isaiah. So we know it's this man, but there are very few things that I have learned prophetically. And, I've done this 24 years now, 100,000 hours invested in studying Yahweh's prophets. There's only a couple of things that have caused me consternation to announce. And one of them is that Donald Trump is the person that the prophets are portraying as the great betrayer, who is the corporeal manifestation of Satan. And the reason for that is that twofold. One is the whole world has been psyched into believing that he's going to be a young guy that's going to be dashing and slick.
Everybody's
and everything
gonna
else.
love him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this guy's, he's a real piece of crap. I mean, he's one of the most vulgar, disgusting, dishonest, reprehensible men in the history of humanity. He may be the worst man who ever lived. And so that is not the image that they had anticipated, although he is very good at fooling people. There's the MAGA still believe that he is a great president as opposed to a piece of crap. Now, the other part is he's falling apart in terms of health. He has dementia. He is a confabulator, which means that there's very little correlation between what he believes and says and reality. I mean, every day, like he pronounced at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for Veterans Day that he has a 92% approval rating when it's in the mid to low 30s. I mean, everything about him is fake.
Great. Everybody loves me. Yeah.
Right. So how is a man who is clearly out of his mind and is aging this poorly going to survive another 7.5 years?
Yeah.
So that was the part that made it really uncomfortable to make this pronouncement. But, the deal is you work with Yahweh long enough and you listen to his prophets, you go where the words lead, and you stake your reputation on they're right. They've never been wrong before. That's the Antichrist.
Yep. What else we owe?
Yeah, I posted this for a singular reason. This is in the about the German concentration camps. It may even be outside of Auschwitz, as they're trying to de-lice the hair of this woman. And what I keep on emphasizing, and I think I may be the only person who has made and who has promoted this conclusion, which is that men and women can be good or bad individually, but collectively, men and women are always bad. If you unite them, collectivizing them in Marxism, which is what the Nazis were, and what the Soviets were under Stalin, and what Mao Zedong's gang were, if you collectivize them under Marxism, they're going to be exceedingly brutal and deadly and destructive. And they were, well over 100 million people killed by Marxists over this last 100 years. But the same thing is true with Christianity and with Islam.
Oh, sure.
And it is almost universally true if you look at empires like the Carthaginians, empires like the Greeks, empires like the Romans, that men in large organizations are ruthless, they're brutal, they're absolutely evil. And it is only when people are individually responsible for their own actions and they're not part of a gang that they can be good or evil. But political and religious man, universally evil.
Yeah, that concentration of power in such a small group, it just gives too much opportunity for horrible things to happen. You look throughout history when power's concentrated that way. That's horrible. Part of what made the United States.
That's only half the problem, though, Kevin.
Right.
Yes, in a Marxist system, and in religion, like with Christianity and the popes and that sort of thing, and with Islam with the kings. Power is concentrated, and concentrated power corrupts. That's true. That isn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that in groups, among Muslims, amongst right-wing wacko Christians, among MAGAs, among the Nazis, among the Soviets in Russia, they become part of the gang. They become part of the group. And what you see in any gang is that people will act far worse than they would individually. They share responsibility with the group, and the whole group comes to manifest the worst in humanity and never the best in humanity. And so it's the gang mentality that leads people to be the worst that they can be. And they shirk individual responsibility. They're no longer thinking, well, boy, that's murder, or that's thievery, or those are drugs that are going to hurt somebody. They don't think that way anymore. It's we as the group are doing it, and I'm part of this group, so this is the ethos of the group. And it just takes people down to the lowest possible denominator. So it's not just the concentration of power, which is an issue. It's the group gang mentality of those who support them. You know, when you look at the rise of Adolf Hitler, they lined the streets, and they were part of that collective. Mm-hmm. They became what he was.
Yeah, from the top down. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a fun one here. It says that a diamond is simply coal that has done well under pressure. One of the great lines, most people probably don't know that a diamond is nothing but carbon, but it's carbon after it's endured tremendous pressure. And so that diamond, with all of its brilliance and the facets and the way that it breaks down color and light, is really, and obviously that is not a diamond in that man's hand of that size, but they make some now that are artificial, that are absolutely spectacular. But isn't it interesting that something just carbon, and you know, we're a carbon-based life form, that under pressure can be something that is that revealing the way that it reflects light. And so I looked at this and says, you know, that's really us. I'm a big advocate for people developing character when it's forged in adversity. It's overcoming challenges that make us tough, that give us confidence and resolve and resiliency, is dealing with the pressures of life. And so I look at us as a carbon-based life form, enduring the pressures of life and coming out ultimately as brilliant and refined as that diamond.
Sure. And, you know, diamonds, like you were saying, not just size, but they don't come out cut that way. In order for them to refract the light, to sparkle, to do that, they have to be multifaceted. They can't just be that one lump of pressurized, you know, carbon that comes out of the ground like that. In order for them to be spectacular, they do have to be multifaceted. So,
but you know that the diamond is conceived in a way that it cleaves on fracture lines like that, so that you can strike it and it will create these angles that are so spectacular, and those angles come out in a way that reflects light beautifully, and that in the hands of a really an excellent jeweler, they can look at a stone and they can visualize exactly where to strike it to get the maximum both size, brilliance, clarity, and reflective qualities of that stone, the maximum light out of the stone. Every stone is a story to them, and the way that they are able to strike it. So it has qualities that are well beyond just the fact that it has these potential for those reflecting light in such a way. It's a beautiful thing.
We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, this
You
is
and I did.
something that bothers me a great deal. That there are so many pro-Israeli accounts on social media that are trying to justify the utter destruction of Gaza, and their claim here is, if you were celebrating this, then don't cry for this. And of course, that's a child that was murdered in their bed by a Muslim invading Israel on the 7th of October of 2 years ago, of 23, and that it led, therefore, to the destruction of Gaza. And I had a contrarian view then, and I have it now, and I am certain that I was right then, and I'm even more certain I'm right now, which is that on 10/7, because I'm arguably the foremost expert on Islam on the planet. I know the religion better than anyone else, having written the 5 volumes of GodDamnReligion, which takes the entire Quran, rearranges it chronologically, puts it in the context of Muhammad's life as delivered by the chronological and the biographical hadith. So no one understands who Allah is and who Muhammad was and the first Muslims, what they did, better than I do. And so I understand that Israel was in a very difficult position. And they're in that difficult position because they don't know their enemy. I predicted that they would announce that their enemy was Hamas as opposed to Islam. And Hamas is simply a symptom of Islam. If you're going to go to war against Hamas, you will certainly lose against Islam.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, yes. So that was the first. And the second was, I knew that they would go into Gaza, and that in Gaza, their goal would be to disarm and eliminate Hamas. And what I have learned about religious zealotry, particularly in a religion that celebrates death, where Allah says that all Muslims must die killing for him, is that you cannot win a war against a religious foe using bullets and bombs. You will make more of them, not less of them. And so what I recognized, and I wrote and publicized on 10/7 of 23, was that Israel would likely invade Gaza and bomb Gaza. And when they did so, they would not only make more Hamas and make more Islamic jihadists than they kill, therefore having it be counterproductive, but because Israel would not pay attention to the war of public opinion, and Israel has forfeited it. And this makes it all that much worse. Then Israel was going to isolate itself from the world, become a pariah in the world, and ultimately become a vassal of Donald J. Trump, which is exactly what has happened. So by destroying Gaza, Israel has put itself in a horrible position because the world looks at them as savages. The world looks at them as having perpetrated genocide. The world looks at them as having being so much more powerful than their foe, and they just keep on bludgeoning them and destroying all of their homes, such that you turned the homes of 2.2 million people into rubble. And that is the image that is being seen because Israel did a horrible job of conveying what happened on 10/7. I mean, to a large extent, we don't even know what happened on 10/7. We don't know how many rubs took place. We don't know how many children were actually killed. And the evidence was all there. Israel just didn't show it. And you can say that, out of respect for the families of the deceased, if you're going to try to save your country, and if you want the deceased's life to matter, then you show everything you can about them, and they wouldn't do it. And because they didn't do it, and they waited too late to show the GoPro film from the Hamas, and in fact, 80% of those that came in Israel were not even Hamas. They were just everyday Islamic jihadists in tennis shoes and sneakers. They walked in. That by doing that, they were going to destroy Israel's reputation, making Israel far more vulnerable, isolated from the world, and making it inevitable that the world was going to force Israel to capitulate to a Palestinian state carved out of its heart. The prophets had said that was going to occur, and that we knew when that occurred, Israel, by its destroying of Gaza and fighting 7 different countries at the same time, that Israel would become so vulnerable that Alaska Flood 2.0 would then be inevitable. And what Israel didn't understand, and I tried to make clear to them, and you can read this, my open letter to them. It's the 3rd chapter of volume 1 of GodDamnReligion, free at YadaYah.com. Go and read it. What I learned is that the purpose of Alaska Flood, the 10/7 invasion of Israel, was not to occupy Israel, wasn't to conquer Israel. It wasn't just to kill some Jews. The purpose of it was to be so, and now Shinwar's letter, which he wrote on that day, confirms that I was right. It was to be so barbarian, so sadistic, that Israel would respond the way it did. What Hamas wanted, Qatar wanted, is for Israel to be so upset that they go into Gaza and destroy Gaza, because they knew that if they killed tens of thousands of women and children in Gaza and destroyed Gaza, the imagery of that would destroy Israel. The Israel that they could not beat in all-out regular war would be so isolated and so disgusted by the world, they would prevail against Jews worldwide. They would turn the world against Israel, and they would cause the world to vote almost unanimously, and finally the United States to capitulate, because they bribed Donald Trump for $20 billion, that an internal Islamic state would be carved out of Israel, and that what that would do, based upon this scenario, is to create Alaska 2.0, where rather than 4,000 or 5,000 Islamic jihadists and 10, 15,000 rockets, it's going to be 150,000 rockets, maybe 10 times that, in drones
from all directions. Yeah,
and it's going to be millions of jihadists, and they're going to come from Syria and from Turkey and from Egypt and from Jordan and from Saudi Arabia. They're going to come from everywhere, and they're also going to come inside of Israel from this new Islamic State, and that they will control the way they did previously, but not just a few, half a dozen small communities. They're going to terrorize and control every small community in Israel. And then particularly with Turkey and with Iran, they're going to bomb with missiles and drones the largest cities like Tel Aviv is essentially out of existence. And this is what Israel set itself up for. This is why I was so antagonistic on Netanyahu's plan, that we're going to, and he's still repeating it, we're going to disarm and eliminate Hamas and take them out of power. And it's not possible. They've been doing it for 2 years. You cannot remove Islam from an Islamic community. Gaza is entirely Islamic. Hamas is Islamic. It cannot be done. You could work at it for 1,000 years and you could not get it done. And this whole thing Israel was played to do this very thing, so that Israel would become vulnerable and Alaska Flood 2.0 would shake the country to its knees. And the prophets speak of the time of Israel's troubles being so horrific, 2 out of every 3 Jews die. That's what we're looking at here. This is what Israel did to itself by not knowing how to respond. And if you recall, I gave Israel a 5-point plan of saying, if you do these things instead of that thing, you'll prevail. Yeah. So it's not like I'm saying they should have done nothing. No, I gave them the precise things they needed to do, none of which they did. And they put themselves in this position. And as a result, it's going to be a matter of no more than 6 or 7 months. Donald Trump will betray them. He's been bribed to do so. there's going to be a Fakistinian Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel. And by within 2 years, we're going to witness Alaska flood 2.0. It's going to be 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, I mean, all they have, YadaYahowah at this point. That is their only answer for if they want to get out of this alive.
You want to get out of it alive, you need to know who the enemy is and read GodDamnReligion, the 5 volumes of it, free at YadaYah.com. And if you want your own soul to survive it, you need to read the 35 books also on the bookshelf at YadaYah.com. Every book is free in its entirety. So that's our advice to you. That's Yahweh's advice to you. This was just really a throwaway picture, but the reason I posted it is you look at all of the religious structures in that picture between the mosques and the cathedrals and the churches and the like. Yeah. Israel is such a religious place that I'm just looking forward to the time that Yahweh removes it all. On Taruwah in 2033, which is year 6,000 Yah, God is on record saying that he is going to incinerate and completely obliterate all traces of religion. So buildings like this one in the forefront that is a religious building will be no more. And then God's going to replace all of the religiosity and the politics and the militarism with the conditions that are very similar to what Adam and Chawah experienced in Eden. Can't wait.
It'll look nice. It'll look nice just as beachfront.
Yeah, it'll be beautiful again. Yeah, it's going to be absolute. It'll be paradise. It isn't now.
Doesn't YahShua and Yirmiyah talk about them using the houses that are left over to house the sheep in? You know. Well,
so, that's in Gaza. What was interesting is that the morning of 10/7 of 23, when very early we witnessed the first of the Muslims coming in, and I was, of course, horrified because we went 12 hours without the IDF showing up. The IDF completely betrayed Israel. The Mossad betrayed Israel. Shin Bet completely betrayed Israel, and they're taking the captives back into Gaza. Never should have happened. It should have been impossible, and people just walking into Israel. And I remember seeing all of that and just being horrified that it was happening. And at the time, I was translating Zephaniah. And it's in Zephaniah where he says that Gaza is going to become a sheepfold, that everything in Gaza will be reduced to pasture land. So that's God's intent with Gaza.
What are we doing?
Oh yeah, this was an interesting post. Now, one of the things that you never know, because we're dealing with the feeds on social media, is whether or not it's true or false. It was a post today on X where they were saying that X is the #1 news source in 150 countries around the world. Now, there's only about 190 countries around the world, so they're claiming that they're the #1 news source. And my retort was yes. And also the #1 source for racist rants, for anti-Semitism, and for religious calls of genocide and overall stupidity. You're also numero uno for all of those things. And so you never know on whether this happens to be in my Facebook feed here, whether or not the person who presented this as news, which is the U.S. plans to establish a $500 military base near the Gaza border, is telling the truth or not. The likelihood of America spending money like this, which for America with a near $40 trillion national debt and no spending money like drunken sailors on the way to their own bankruptcy party, $500 million isn't even. Billions of dollars are hardly even worth talking about. I don't have a problem with that. And my issue really is, and the point I wanted to make, is that whether you like it or not, and we happen to love Israel, we stand for Israel, I will lay down my life for Israel. We're committed to awakening Israel and reintroducing Israel to Yahweh, their God, and to Dod, their Savior and King. That is our goal. We want to reintroduce Israel to the Torah and to Yahweh and to the covenant and to the 7 annual invitations to meet. So we're all about Israel. But Israel has, because of its actions and because of Netanyahu, has become a vassal of Donald J. Trump. They either do what Trump says or it's over. And so Trump says, you won't do this, and they won't do it. I mean, they are literally controlled by Donald Trump. And what vassals do with their vassal states is they put military bases in them. And so this is Donald Trump saying, here's my spear in the sand. It's being built in Israel. We own you. Do not get out of line. This is not to do something in Gaza. This is to control Israel.
Yeah, because there's nothing in it for the United States, and all they do is put their soldiers, American lives, in harm's way for people that want to kill them. Because Muslims don't care. We can shoot at the Jews. We can shoot at the Americans. Get the heck out of our homeland, so-called thing. So it makes no sense.
They will kill Muslims, so they don't care who they're killing. They kill far more Muslims than they do Christians or Jews. But the fact of the matter is that the U.S. has made lots of bold statements about Gaza, none of which are true, none of which are going to ever materialize. But this is not about Gaza here. It's cloaked as Gaza, has all to do with Israel having made itself a vassal of the United States, and vassal countries are controlled by foreign militaries. That's what this represents.
Yeah, we're going to take a little dirt. Wow. Palestinians have higher rate than Donald Trump.
Definitely a related post. It's the reason why I have gone out, and I've said it now 1,000 times over these years. Well, I see over there on I guess it's only on the full feed that we actually have Leah is participating in this program. I don't know if you've noticed that. But we do have Leah, even though she's in Florida. Yep, there she is. So we have my wife contributing to the program today. Rich, she does look a lot cuter than you are. I hope so. We thought we would have her as part of the show. I was just kidding. Actually, that picture right there was drawn by our mutual good friend, my good friend for 20 years, and a man that you've come to know now quite well. That's Kirk, Captain Kirk.
Oh wow!
I drew that. Yeah, that was a dress and jewelry that my wife wore at a wedding of my youngest son. That was the rehearsal dinner dress for the wedding of my youngest son, and she, of course, wore that dress because she wanted to tell my ex, in no uncertain terms, "You lost, sweetheart." he upgraded,
right?
And so it was really fun to see her play that role. It was, of course, made me feel great because of how bitter and contentious my ex was. But that's the outfit that she wore, and my good friend Kirk painted it for me. It's just kind of what brothers do for brothers. So that's what
your Yowza moment.
It was a Yowza moment, yeah. Clearly, for me, that was a Yowza moment. She was beautiful. Oh, we can stay on that picture. We can stay on that picture. I was going to comment on it. What that picture there says, and the reason I wanted to talk about it says that 60% of Palestinians are satisfied with Hamas's performance, and so they have the little children and the women and everybody. They're yay Hamas. This is my point, that in Islamic Gaza, the Islamic organization is going to be approved. They are, when there was Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, the PA, which is the PLO, in Hamas, in Gaza, the Gazans preferred Hamas overwhelmingly to the less terroristic PLO. And the same thing is true in the West Bank. The reason why in Gaza and Samaria, there have been no elections for the PA in upwards in 20 years is because the PLO knows that Hamas is preferred 5-1 over them. And so Muslims, because of the Quran, which orders all Muslims to die killing for Allah, is such a death cult that the most ruthless and deadliest organization, Muhammad was a rapist. He was a pedophile. So they see nothing wrong with raping and pedophilia. Muhammad funded Islam on the human trafficking and on kidnap for ransom. So all of these are approved and good Muslim behaviors. So Hamas is a really good organization from the point of view of somebody indoctrinated in Islam. And you don't have an appreciation for how rotten Islam is until you read the 5 volumes here of Goddamn Religion, and then you know. And so the fact of the matter is you can never eliminate Hamas from an Islamic enclave like Gaza. So we just should completely dispel that notion. What they're trying to do is impossible. It cannot be done. And this is the consequence. After 2 years of destroying Gaza, they're still saying, yay, Hamas.
Right.
We can't fix this.
Anything
can't fix this.
Mothers are proud. Mothers, all they can think about, the highest calling for their child is to die as a martyr. And not my 18-year-old son. No, my 6-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter. If they could just die as a martyr, that's the greatest thing I could hope for in life. Wow. It's in Europe. It's in Dearborn, Michigan, the United States here, Mondani.
You cannot fix it. I mean, this cannot be fixed. The terrorism is germane to the Quran. Yeah. There's only one exemplar in Islam. It's Muhammad, and he was a ruthless terrorist. Led 75 terrorist raids. He was a mass murderer. He was a rapist, slave trader, and pedophile. You cannot fix Islam. There is no alternative to Muhammad.
There's no reformation.
No, it cannot be fixed. There's no reformation for Islam. That particular picture there, it just had was so interesting that we have this mother goddess cult that came out of the closet today. They admitted that they're a mother goddess cult today, and they did so on some really stupid basis. And I just like the fact that I saw in a friend's mutual friend of ours. This is Matt. Matt was talking about you should distance yourself from people who lie to you, who disrespect you, and who use you. Well, that mother goddess cult, who is perpetrating this idea that there is a spiritual mom and that God is two personality. He's fully mother and fully father, and the lies that they have to underlie that, which I absolutely destroyed today. Well, I can't say that I destroyed them. Yeah, I would destroy them, but this came through first, and I was saying, boy, that's exactly what this woman who is the psychopath that has lied to people, disrespected them, and used them for her own agenda has done. You need, if you're anywhere near that, to distance yourself from it. And then I posted that. And the next thing, I went to my email, and my friend who had gone to their We Hate Craig website,
which one
had this thing on this is why we're mother goddesses, and it was astonishing. So the juxtaposition things sometimes is really interesting. I said letters that cross in the mail. Well, this is an example of that. This is kind of an interesting format, Kevin and Rich. As I said, we didn't know how this is going to work out, but the idea was we were going to do a vlog on a blog. The Facebook site is a blog, and
I'm ready for Twitter too. So we can do Twitter.
So of X. So this is actually a blog or a vlog, a speaking video live stream on our blog on Facebook, And I just think it's so much more interesting to go into the nuances that cause one to say these things, to reveal these kinds of things, what it means for your life, why it's interesting in today's world. And for all those people who love blogging and who love social media, and for those who prefer to listen to the message as opposed to reading about it, because most people don't want to read anymore. What an interesting juxtaposition of the two most popular ways to communicate in the world today. The blog and the vlog are now one here with our vlog on the blog. I think it's an interesting experiment. We'll hear what others have to say as we continue to do this for a while. This particular graphic was the idea was to say that things are going to get much worse before they get better. I think this was also something that was posted by our friend Matt. And what my comment was that we're now just about 7 months from entering the time of Israel's troubles, where 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die. It's the worst time in world history, and therefore much worse than the Holocaust is what's coming. And so what we're tracking in terms it's going to get worse, that is that very sharp decline to that bottom point. That bottom point is Taruwah in 2033. That's when it all changes and it goes rapidly back up. And Taruwah is when God's going to eliminate all politics, all religion, all militarism, all conspiracy, all anti-Semitism. It all goes away in an instant, and the earth gets transformed to the conditions of Eden. We have Dode returning 10 days later with YAHOWAH on Kipurym. Then we're invited to re-enter Eden on Sukah. And then we have this marvelous opportunity to teach the mortal remnant of Yisra'el that is purged of the religiosity so that they become covenant members. And then we move beyond that 1,000-year celebration into eternity, where the entire universe is our playground. That is exactly what we're going to witness, Kevin, over these next 8 years, leading to happily ever after over 1,000 years.
I'm on board. I got my ticket, so I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready too, man. Gonna be right there in the midst of it. We'll do one more, and then we'll call it a night. I think we've gone over an hour on our first one. So we just talked just briefly about that one. What I've been studying this here recently, just because I found it interesting. I have studied every which way that these massive pyramids could have been built, and basically stone and copper tools. And the size of these stones, most of which were brought in from 500 miles away, cutting these stones to that precision and putting them up in this manner, we're told to believe that they were done for a particular Pharaoh Khafre, and built over 20 years by large numbers of Egyptians who were paid in beer and bread.
All right.
It's not possible. We have tried, archaeologists have tried every which way with every kind of tool imaginable that would have been available. Can't be done. It's not remotely feasible. And so in looking at the Sphinx, part of the Sphinx was covered over in sand for a very long time. The part that was covered over in sand, which is the body of it, has suffered decades, centuries of very heavy water erosion, rain. Mm-hmm. And the last time that there was that kind of water erosion was at the end of the last ice age, when this desert got that kind of rain. That was 10, 12,000 years ago. Which was the most climactic event ever. It was we actually went through the tail of a comet stream, and it caused worldwide desolation of whole civilizations. But human civilization had advanced way beyond what it would reemerge at sometime around 12,000 years ago, and there is evidence that the Sphinx dates back to that period. And the time to build this of when we're told in the standard Egyptian timeline and with the tools that were available to them, it's not possible. So I just thought it's an interesting thing to think about as to when it was actually built, for what reason. There's the Pharaoh that it's claimed for. There is no reference to him anywhere inside of that structure. Nothing.
Yeah.
So we're just clearly are being misled on what it's all about. I've been there, and it's a magnificent sight, even to see it in this rough form. But I would be curious as to when they were actually built and for what reason. They actually align with these the three large pyramids. They align with Orion's belt, but not Orion's belt as it was in 2500 BCE, but instead 12,000 years ago. So it's just an interesting a bit of archaeological insight. I'm always curious, and it's something to think about. We clearly do not have the answer for what actually happened there. And the master of archaeological discoveries in Egypt is a little dictator, and he will not allow anything. If there is a dig that, like, for example, they found a super large chamber in that pyramid, and they've found the two doors that lead to it. He won't let anyone open them, and has precluded anybody from entering those two large chambers for a decade. And anytime anybody unearths something that is contrary to what he's trying to sell as the standard myth, they're shut down.
Right.
So we don't know the story there. We'll do one.
We will.
Let's do
we'll
one.
know the story soon enough.
Yeah, we will. We will.
You want me to run the
audio
on
this? It's what he's essentially saying is that America has sold out to Muslims, and it's true that Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar has bribed Trump to the tune of $20 billion that we know of, and they've also bribed American universities, and they've bribed social influencers like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and many others. And they had clearly gotten to Kirk, who went from being pro-Israel and being paid hundreds of millions of dollars by Israel to being paid far more by Qatar to speak out against Israel. And he had made that transition in his last days. So what it was just always interesting to me is the Communist Manifesto with Karl Marx. He was saying that the capitalists would actually buy the rope to hang themselves, or they would make the rope to hang themselves. Well, in this particular case, America and the West are undergoing suicide by Islam, and it is Muslims who have paid for our funeral.
Mm-hmm. Well, Marx was very clear about there needing to be a certain amount of capitalism before Marxism or socialism could be implemented, because capitalism built the infrastructure better, because it it built the factories for the workers to work in and things, where socialism didn't do those. It didn't build those things as well.
Yeah, what Marx, of course, didn't know is that without incentive there is no productivity, and so. And again, the gang mentality versus individual mentality. An individual with incentive to better their life and their family is a much more inventive, much more resourceful, much more productive than somebody sitting in a government building that has never built anything in their lives. And so every experience in Marxism has been the destruction of value, the destruction of economies, the destruction of freedoms. Everything is worse in a Marxist environment. Look at North Korea versus South Korea during H9 Berliner with Kennedy. Look at East and West Berlin. The difference is just astonishing. I was one of the very few people that was able to travel throughout the Soviet Union from the West. And I made it all the way from Leningrad all the way across, which is now St. Petersburg, all the way across into Siberia. Was assigned a KGB agent that monitored everything that I did. Was on the Orient Express. And so I saw the Soviet Union when Marx and Lenin and Stalin were presented as gods, very much like the MAGA presents Trump today, with the same kind of things in their sayings and the like. And at the same time, I was the first group of Westerners that was allowed into communist China. I went in with Tenzing Norgay, who's the Sherpa that led Hillary up Everest. And so when we went into cities like Shanghai, who had not seen no one in those cities had seen a Westerner and they're in lifetimes, there were millions of people hanging out of the buildings and on the sidewalks just to see us walk through and drive through, and were large feasts every night when we were greeted. And so I was able to see the stifling effect of communism very early in my life. And the things that I recognized is the people of Russia and the people of China were wonderful. They were just exceedingly nice people. And I still think that is true. And I was actually one of the very first to build a factory in the free enterprise zones in China that revolutionized China. China didn't become a powerhouse through communism, but through free enterprise. And I was responsible for building some of the very first of those. So I've lived a life witnessing the stifling effect of Marxism and the benefit of free enterprise. And having been there, I'm so sad to see a world that would elect a Marxist as a mayor of New York City, or how today's youth are so Marxist in their mentality, and they just have no concept of free enterprise or of economics, or have any idea of history and to what the difference is between these systems. So it's just a great travesty. And now, because of the black ooze that was found underneath the sands of the Muslim Middle East, and the susceptibility of politicians and educators and influencers to bribes, the game's over. We lost. We had them purchase our funeral.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I remember old Russian proverb. They pretend to pay us, so we pretend to work. Was very and that's exactly the reason that the alcoholism was so rampant in Russia. Was just there was nowhere to go. There was no upward mobility for yourself whatsoever. Yeah, everyone had a Dachka, but it was a rundown piece of crap, and you couldn't,
I had the privilege of going back to Russia many times over the years. And my last trip through Russia, it was just amazing to see first of all, the love they have for Putin, and for the renaissance of that country. It's a beautiful country with wonderful people. It's why and we will do another program where we have Rich. I hope Rich comes in back in a moment. We'll end this episode, but I'm certain we will do a episode where we talk about all of the lies underlying the Ukrainian proxy war, because Americans have been duped into viewing Putin and Russia as the boogeyman and China and Z as the boogeyman, when the people of Russia and China are not, by any stretch of the imagination. And the leaders of those countries are actually more honorable than the leader of our country or of any country in Europe. And it's important for us to know what's happening there and why it's happening. And I'm in a unique place. I've been there all along and participated in their economies. I know them. I've been there. I've done that. And I guess you have to be really old by the time you can say that. And unfortunately, we have 2 or 3 generations that essentially know nothing, and they're just full of opinions. You know what the number one favorite job is now of people under 35 years of age? They don't want to work in a factory.
Influencer.
They want to be a social influencer. That's correct. They want to be a social influencer. Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, this has been the first ever vlog on a blog. We'll find out what people think of it. I think it was fun. I just think it's
I had a good time. Leave us comments. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, what a marvelous way to talk about the things that are being presented in social media and to make sense of them, so that people have a bit more of an understanding of the underlying factors and how they're going to play out over this next 7 or 8 years. So, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Rich. This was a fun exercise. Look forward to doing it again.
Good night, everybody.